Okay, here joining us is not a new guy in the business. He's been around for 32 years. Steve Potts. Steve, tell us about your legacy in the frame building business.
Well, I kind of, where I was born and raised really helped my love of the bikes. I was born I was born in San Francisco, but I was raised at the base of Mount Tam in Tamalpais Valley, and Mount Tam was sort of a refuge for me as far as growing up. It was just a wonderful place. I pushed my big old heavy bike up on the mountain and discovered the Wild West all by myself.
Wow.
And I literally felt like I found something that nobody else knew about. You can imagine being like 11 years old, pushing a Schwinn or a Roll Fast or an old bike up the
11
mountain,
years old.
and then looking out at the ocean and just forever, just incredible. Up at Bolinas Ridge, I felt like I've discovered the Wild West. Anyway, so my bike career kind of started, riding bikes, and then I went to Tamalpais High School. And it was a great school. It was one of the better trade schools probably in California for a long time. They had a wonderful machine shop and wood shop and print shop and metal shop, and I used to get old junky bikes for $0.25 at the dumps and then fix them up at the high school machine shop. And that was in 1967. That's when I was a freshman. And I kind of did that and did other things in my life. I was into windsurfing, and I raced motorcycles professionally for 9.5 years.
I didn't know that.
As a Class C pro, and I did motocross, and I did everything. And I had a lot of energy like my two young sons do now.
How old are your sons?
16 and 20.
16 and 20.
And they drive a hard bargain. And I wonder where they got it.
I'm sure like their dad.
They're into windsurfing and diving and everything. Anyway, so what happened is, I always had a love for bicycling. And then, of course, I grew up with Joe Breeze. My dad and Joe Breeze's dad were friends, and they built telescopes together.
Telescopes.
And Joe's father had a wonderful machine shop, and then later on in life, Joe and I started, Joe built bikes, and I helped him and did painting on his bikes and just, learning about it. And Joe and I did an absolutely spectacular cross-country trip in 1980 through New Zealand and Australia. And mostly we did both islands in New Zealand and just a little bit in Australia. And it was at that point in 1980 that I just decided I wanted to make bikes my life,
Really?
And I came back home. I quit a great job. I was a sheet metal foreman for a big company, and sold my house, and I went totally broke. Building bikes.
You went all in.
I went all in. I sold everything I had. And I rented a garage for $35 a month that I could hardly afford, and slept in the shop for a couple of years. And And I tease about, you can only do this when you're a young bachelor with time on your hands and passionate energy, and then as you grow up, you have to become practical.
You have to be,
And those are wonderful years because you're most creative, and
exactly.
It's really.
But it's all on the line.
It's all that energy.
No commitments.
And little do you know that energy is going to not last your entire lifetime, but the passion will. But, anyway, so it went from there, and I just started building bikes in this garage, and then of course I had friends Charlie Cunningham and Mark Slate, and we were all riding together and started making parts together for these bikes that weren't available. And in that we formed Wilderness Trail Bikes and started making mountain bikes.
That's how WT was formed.
And about 7 or 8 years ago, Charlie and I left that business, and I continued to really get back to my roots, which is being in the shop and making bikes. And because as the business grew, you get pulled further and away from what you love to do, and start managing people, and you've got 30 employees, and you're traveling and trade shows, and so I'm kind of back being the
full circle, so to speak.
And so I'm back in my garage building bikes, and at my home, and it allows me to be close to my two young boys, and they're young men now. But part of it was just to be able to teach them whatever, they absorb things through osmosis.
Absolutely.
And I remember watching my dad, and he didn't have to say anything, but I just realized how capable he helped me become by watching him. Being back at home is really good because I was able to, I'm able to show my kids how to do stuff. And they get to watch. They just kind of watching. And I was mentioning that, I remember watching my father, and he didn't have to say anything. It was I just saw him do stuff, and it wasn't until much later years in my life that I realized how important that was.
Right.
Is that I saw my dad do it, so therefore I knew it could be done.
Right.
And I can see that with my kids now. They are tackling everything. They are making anything that they want to make.
Right.
And they've got the shop to do it in and stuff. So for kids, I've had to learn you just need to be available for them.
Right.
You can't shove them in a direction, and you can't push them here and force them to do this. But you can help facilitate their interest.
Right.
Which, if you're enjoying what you're doing, they see that.
They see that, and it becomes a natural decision for them or natural need.
Yeah.
You don't have to force them to take this class or that class.
Yeah.
It's just what they do.
So now that my boys are getting older, I'm sort of redeveloping my bike business to a more for a lot of years I was a full-time single dad, so I had really more than one job.
Right.
And I had to prioritize my kids.
Right.
And so they were always first, and they're only kids once.
Right.
And you got to give them the time that they need.
So we have Steve Potts back, is what you're saying.
We have Steve Potts' dad and Steve Potts' bicycles.
Right.
And Steve Potts' dad is always number one, and it still is. But now that they're grown, I can develop my business on a more professional level.
So how many frames this year do you think?
50 or 60
50,
probably.
60.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a lot. They're all custom, and it's not just the frames. I build the forks and custom handlebars and custom stems. And I've kind of worldwide, I become the go-to guy for titanium repairs.
Really?
Because they're very complicated, and I have all the proper equipment to do it and knowledge, and it's been really enjoyable to take really nice bikes that need repairing and give them new life.
Give them new life.
And guys that buy these bikes, they fall in love with them, and
they're attached to them.
They want to keep them going, and it's a great feeling.
Right.
On
that note, we have something here with a ribbon. What do we have here?
Well, this just a few minutes ago won the best titanium construction bike at the show.
Best titanium construction.
And I'm honored and grateful. It's there's a lot of stiff competition here today, and I do work hard, and I pride myself in all the details. But there's just so many great builders out here.
Yeah, in a room full of hand builders.
Yeah, and I'm honored and grateful to get it. I'm really, really thankful.
Okay, so tell us about the bike.
This here is a 29er. It's a 29-inch wheel. It's basically a 700C tire rim with a 52 millimeter tire on it approximately, and it comes out to be a 29-inch diameter tire. It's a rigid bike. This is one of my most popular models. I've been building this fork for about 32 years. It's a Charlie Cunningham design. And Charlie and I, of course, were partners in our WTB, and over the years we always work together on things, and I refined this design and really put it in production. And I actually thought it would die with all the new suspension over the years. But my loyal fan base, after the whole things have come full circle, this has just turned out to be one of the best rigid forks you can buy in the world for a mountain bike. And so the
big wheel has helped the rigid fork as well.
What's that?
The big wheel has helped the rigid fork.
Yeah, because it's a much smoother riding bike.
Right.
And so I've revived the Type 2, and I'm making it just for my bikes or custom orders. And it's wonderful. I made all new tooling, and it's turned out beautiful. It's got a custom ski pot stem on it and custom ski pot handlebars. And what I do is all of these parts are made for each individual person.
Wow.
And so they go into a CAD drawing, and we get their rise and reach and their stem and their handlebar, what's appropriate for them, and I make it for them. And so it's definitely a really bulletproof, frame. People always ask me, how much does it weigh? And I say it weighs as much as it needs to do the job that we want it to do.
Right.
And that's the weight is a byproduct of good engineering. So
right.
I just make really solid bulletproof straight bikes, and that's no frills, bells and whistles. It's just the solid real deal.
Right. What were some of the requirements or requests that the buyer had when you communicated with him? This customer belongs to a wonderful guy named Peter, and he knew what he wanted when he came to me, and my job was to fit him on the bike properly, so he felt good in the cockpit area, and that his riding position was in a really efficient place. And we kind of went through there, and he chose all his components, and he's actually got a little different barred stem setup on it, which is going to, for his type of riding, will work. We showed it this way for the show.
And but he kind of knew what he wanted after. He's got an experienced bike rider, and my job was to fit him on the bike properly, and that's basically what I do. So I construct the bike with the proper size tubing and the proper geometry and everything, so it fits his needs and his weight and his riding style.
Right.
So I know he's dying to get on it, and it's you know, part of this whole bike building thing is I get to meet really great people.
Right.
I mean, that's really what life is about, is relationships and friendships and who you meet and how you interact. It's a wonderful thing.
Right. Well, thank you, Steve.
You bet.
We're going to interview Peter in a little bit and talk about the process.
Thanks a lot.